welcome to video 27, equivalent fractions.
Equivalent fractions are the same fractions, but the numerator and the denominator look different. I know that sounds confusing, but I'm going to show you an example of what I mean. So if we can just have a look at these two holes here. If you can see, these holes are exactly the same size. Yeah? This one's been cut into 3 pieces, so the denominator would be 3. And this one's been cut into 6 pieces, so the denominator would be 6. So I'm just going to put that on there. Got 2 holes, one the denominator of 3 and one with the denominator of 6. Remember, we said the top of the fraction was how many we were looking at. So I'm going to colour in this top part here of this hole. You can see now that I've got 1/3. Now an equivalent fraction to 1/3 is 2/6. Can you see? And it's important that we have both the holes the same size and them cut equally, but you can see that 1/3 is exactly the same value, the same amount as 2/6. So an equivalent fraction means that we've got 2 fractions that are exactly the same, but the numerators and the denominators are different. Let's have a look at some more examples of equivalent fractions. We'll stick to our 2 holes here that are on thirds and sixths. Let's colour in this second bit here. So, I've got 2/3. Let's make an equivalent fraction from 2/3. But you can see it from here. That's exactly the same value. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces that we're looking at. 6 pieces that make a whole. 4/6. So we can see that 2/3 and 4/6 are equivalent, they're equal. Let's have a look at these 2 holes here. We can see that, in fact I'm going to move them up a bit more here. You see that? See here, we've again got thirds. We've got 1, 2, 3. So we've got whole that's chopped into thirds. Oops. Yeah, better? Oh, rubbing out the wrong thing. This time I've got a whole exactly the same size, chopped up equally, that's cut up into 9ths. So let's do an investigation and find an equivalent fraction. So here we've got 1/3. We need to colour exactly the same amount of this fraction here, of this whole. You can see that I've got 3/9. So equivalent fraction, 1/3 is the same as 3/9. Again, let's go for 2/3 and see what that equivalent fraction is. So 2/3. Is the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6/9. Now, if we can have a look at this. I'm going to bring this over here. We can see with 1/3 and 2/6, all we've actually done is cut each section into 2. We've actually times each section by 2. See that on there? We'll do it along here as well. Not very steady hands. We've times each section by 2. And therefore we've got exactly the same whole, but we've cut it into smaller pieces. So if I go up here, I'm just going to get the black pen. What we've done is we've cut every section of our denominator, we've times every section by 2. And now we've got 6 in each, 6 pieces that make a whole. But because we've cut every section into 2 pieces, and now we've got 6, we've obviously done exactly the same thing to the numerator, because the numerator is just how many we're looking at. So our denominator for our fraction was 1/3. We times the denominator by 2 and got 6. We cut each piece into 2, and that meant that we cut each numerator into 2. So we had 2. The same for here. Again, the same example. We cut each section into 2. We times each section by 2. So we did the same to the numerator. Down here, we times each section by 3. Sorry, it's very wobbly lines. But you can see here, we times each section by 3. So we'd have to time the numerators by 3. 3 times 3 is 9, 2 times 3 is 6. The same here. 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 3 is 3. So if I was to do one without using a visual representation, and I had a number like 4 ninths, I could find an equivalent fraction by timesing each section by a certain number, and that would cut it into that many pieces. So say if I times each section by 3, I cut each piece into 3 pieces. I'd have to do the same to the numerator. So 4 times 3 is 12, and 9 times 3 is 27. So 12 27ths would be the same as, it would be equivalent to 4 ninths. Okay, so we're going to put our equivalent fraction understanding to our number mind map. I'm going to come up to where we had fractions of a number. I'm going to come along here and I'm going to put equivalent fractions. Remember, they were the same fractions, but with different numerators and denominators. I'm going to show that by having capitals there so that you know that they're the same fractions, but they look a little bit different. And all it meant was that we were using our multiplication skills to times the numerator and the denominator. We could also use division skills, but Mr. Slay's going to go into what simplifying is in the next video. And all it meant was that we were cutting each section into smaller parts. To do that, we used our multiplication understanding and our fraction understanding by doing our investigation.